Joining us now is financial expert and co-creator of Radish, Ted Benna. Ted, explain to us what this is about and what did you see as the inherent problem with the current state of the 401k?
Well, the problem, Christina, is it's reached a point now where many middle and low-income employees can't afford to have money taken out of their paycheck. What with cost of living, housing, education, medical care, food, etc. Even when they have the opportunity, they just can't afford to do it. So, I came up with this new plan, as a way to help middle and low-income employees because it's solely employer funded. And, rather than it being a plan that's intended to help, 20, 30 years from now, employees can have access to it when they have financial need. So if they need $500 or $1,000 to, repair a car to be able to get to work, or for medical expenses, other significant financial needs, they can dip into it and take money to provide for those type of needs.
I mean, that makes sense because, I've been through phases of my life where I thought it really made more sense for me to have the liquidity rather than put it in my 401k because there were bills, there were uncertainties. So there's no penalty when you need to take those funds out?
Well, there will be a 10% penalty like other qualified plans unless it, meets one of the exemptions like, buying a new home,
right?
Education, medical expenses, those types of things. But Christina, what happens is the employer contribution goes in pre-tax. So as a result, neither the employer or the employees pay FICA tax on it. So, that's 7.65%. So if the employee has to take it out and pay the 10% penalty tax, it's not that big a difference. And in some states, the withdrawal from retirement account may be exempt from state tax.
Yeah.
So in those type of states, the employees actually end up paying, no more or maybe even less tax than if they got paid cash compensation.
I want to ask you to kind of get retrospective if you're willing to, and as you were designing what became the 401k, if the way that it's played out is in line with what you expected. In other words, this is something that I think benefits a lot of Americans who are kind of middle or higher end earners. Obviously, those who are not able to access it. Is that something that you foresaw or forecasted would happen here? How is the level of access that we've seen, yes, the level of adoption as well, kind of matched with what you anticipated when you were creating that first product so many decades ago?
Well, I think 401k definitely worked the way anticipated. Since its inception, it's probably helped workers accumulate about $15 trillion or so when you count all the money that's been rolled out into IRAs and taken as benefits and so forth. And it played a big role in helping turn lower paid employees from spenders into savers. But we've reached a point now where that's changed, where many just can't afford to have money taken out of their paycheck. They have no assets. They have absolutely nothing. And many of them have negative, credit card debt with high interest rates and, a lot of financial stress that, they have to deal with.
How has the feedback been for this new project? Because it does put the onus, obviously, more on employers. What is the benefit to them for engaging in this kind of product? I know they can reward good behavior, things they like to see from employees. What's the feedback been, and do you think it will get adopted by enough companies to make it viable?
Well, we're getting some employers to adopt it and quite a bit of interest. And, trucking industry is one example. And, for the drivers, typically what they're interested in is safety, on-time delivery, maybe, for shorter-term haulers, one more delivery a week and whatever. So the employer is able to set whatever incentives the employees have to meet in order to get the contributions. And so the benefit to the company is to improve performance, potentially reduce turnover a bit, those types of things. And, for the employees is to give them additional financial security.
want to go back to something you mentioned a moment ago, which is kind of developing saving habits or becoming a saver. And I'm curious what you've learned over your career about that particular kind of psychology. So obviously the 401k has had an impact on that. People are thinking more seriously, I think, largely about saving for retirement. I know that that's an ambition of this new project as well. Yes, there's an incentive here for employers to have employees who have good habits and do good work. Talk a bit about sort of your thinking when it comes to how you foster a savings psychology in workers today. What works in that regard?
We're definitely 401k, and now the state mandated IRA plans are a big step in that, because it requires employees to take money out of their paycheck before they have the opportunity to spend it. And I know for me personally, many younger employees over the years, retirees as well, have said, hey, look, I want to thank you, for making this available, but because I would have never been able to do this on my own, if I had to do it without the 401k.
I'm wondering what your advice would be to some people on the younger side. When I got my first full-time job, I remember all the guys in the office, got to max it out. Max out that 401k, the company matches, this will set you up, you got to do it, you got to do it. When I talk now to people in their 20s who do have full-time jobs, they are reticent to pour a bunch of money into something like a 401k because they're just not sure that that program, the system we know it, is going to be there when they need it decades from now. What would you say to them? Is that a safe bet still if you can do it, or do they have a right to think there's more risk there than there used to be?
Well, the plan is going to be there as far as the money they have put in it. Longer term, Christina, whether things happen to make 401ks be less attractive and for employers to not maintain them, which certainly is a possibility, that wouldn't affect the money that's already been accumulated. So for younger workers, there's no reason for them to be concerned now about the fact that 5, 10, 20 years from now, they may not be able to put money into the plans, have the kind of benefits, going forward that they have now.